Hi everyone, so today I'm going to have a go at working out how much you can spend in your retirement with the pension pot that you have. And I'm going to use pen and a piece of paper and a calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through on paper how you can do this fairly easily. Now, it's always best to go and see a financial advisor and have it done properly. But if you want, for your own comfort, just to work out in your own head with your own numbers where you are, good method to do it, not too difficult. If you are the kind of person who prefers to use a spreadsheet and a computer, then I will show some of that a bit later on in the video. But the main objective today is how we can do this with a pen and paper. So let's get into it.
So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw some lines on this paper just to keep my columns in order. And this technique of using a piece of paper for creating a simple pension plan, I think is worth anyone considering really. I mean, obviously the proper advice is to go and see a pension advisor, and you can actually ask your current pension provider to give you an extension early access to up to £5,000 worth of your investments to be able to go and see a financial advisor. But if you just want to do some ideas in your head on what to do, then this is a good way. So first column, I'm going to write age. Second column, savings. Then this third column, I'm going to identify what I spend. Fourth column, I am going to list any other pensions I've got, i.e. state pension. And then I'm going to have a column for growth because the money is invested, it's going to grow a bit. And then I'm going to say what I've got left at the end of the year. So I'll start off with a guy who's 63, so 63, 64, 65. I'll just go up to 69 for now. Okay, so now we need to work out how much this person has got in pensions. Well, he doesn't have anything other than his state pension. So his state pension is going to start at 66. So I'll write a few of these in. So from 66 onwards, he's going to have a state pension of 11,500. Okay. Now the next thing we need to decide is how much growth we think our investments will get. So this is growth over and above inflation. So remember, we're working on today's numbers. We're not going to increase the amount of our pensions as we go along. We're working on today's numbers. And I'm going to say for this example that this person, Harry, has got £300,000 in savings to start off with, and he wants to spend £20,000 per year. Now what this will allow us to do is to calculate if the amount that he has will be enough to sustain him paying £20,000 per year. So what we do is we start here with a calculator, and we're going to work out what growth Harry will get in his first year. So we said 2%. So we're going to work out 2% of £300,000. 2% equals £6,000. So we'll put that in the growth column. Now what we need to do next is just add along. So we've got £300,000 savings. We're going to take off the £20,000 that Harry will spend. And then we're going to add back in the £6,000 investment growth he's going to get off his savings. There we go. So at the end of year one, he'll have £286,000 left. So that's what we start is next year with. So we start with 286, 100,000. Okay, he's going to spend 20,000 again this year. Again, doesn't have any state pension yet. So let's work out what the growth is on 286,000. So 286,000 times 2% equals 5,720. Okay, so now we do the same thing again. Let's start off with his savings of 286,000 minus 20,000 plus the 5,720, and that gives us £271,720, which is what he'll start the year he's 65 with. 271,720. Okay, he's going to spend 20,000 again this year, because don't forget, we're using the figures at today's prices, so inflation's only built into the growth. 21720 times 2% growth equals 534. We'll leave out the pence, just ignore the pence. 5,434. Let's see how much that leaves us at the end of this year. To 271,720 minus 20,000 plus 5,434 equals 257,154. Okay, so in this next year, he will have some state retirement pension because he's 66. Okay, so let's start with the 257,154. Now, instead of having 20,000, he's got some pension here, so he's only going to need to take out 20,000 minus his pension of 11,500, gives us 8,500. So this year he's only going to have to spend 8,500 out of his pension savings. Okay, so let's work out what the growth was on the 250,000, 257,154. Those 2% equals 5,143. Again, we'll leave the pence out. So at the end of this year, that will leave him with 25714 minus the 8,500. Plus the 5,143 equals 253,797. Okay, so let's start the next year with 253,797. So again, because he's got a state retirement pension, we're only going to be spending 8,500 out of his savings this year. So let's see what 2% growth on his £250,797 is. 253,797 times 2%. So let's see what you got the end of this year. So the 253,797, take away the 8,500 he's spending, adding in the growth of 5,075, 250,372. So it's the same bit of paper, but just typed out into a spreadsheet. So there you can see there. So after this row, where we ended to a spreadsheet version of this, just so it's easy to see where we end up with these calculations then. So as we can see then, the amount's reducing every year, but when we get to the age of 90 here, what's left is £155,000, which means actually this pension calculation has worked out, they haven't run out of money by the time they hit 90, which was the objective. So working through this calculation, it's possible to have a look, year on year, how the pension's being utilised and whether there's any chance that the retiree is going to run out of money. So we can use the same sheet with some different assumptions of a different person, and let's see how this one works out. So meet Sally. She's 58. She has £150,000 in savings in her DC pension, and she's also got a DB pension of £12,200. Now, Sally wants to spend £26,000 a year in her retirement, and she's assuming a moderate amount of growth in her investments of 2%. So let's have a look in some detail how that works out for her. So we've gone through exactly the same process as we did on the first sheet here. We've added in Sally's pension, pension of £12,200, which means if she wants to spend £26,000 before she gets a state retirement, she'll be spending £14,800 out of her savings, and after she'll only be spending £3,300 after she gets her state retirement pension. So let's see where she ends up at 90. So at 90 we can see Sally just about makes it. She ends up at 90 with £5,126 left. So if you want to run through these numbers a bit more slowly, feel free to press pause at any time or even just save this video. And if you need to come back to it to work out, to remember how to do any of the calculations, come back to the video anytime and have another look through. If you're a subscriber to the channel, you can also email me at eric@timetoretire.co.uk and I will send you across this spreadsheet with some instructions how you fill it in if you prefer to use a spreadsheet rather than using pen and paper. But as you've seen earlier, it's okay to use either. Let's have a look at another example. This is Margaret, and Margaret is 67. She has £150,000 in savings. She doesn't have any other pensions other than a state pension, and she'd like, if possible, to spend £20,000, but she's assuming growth of 3% above inflation. So just like in the other spreadsheets here, we've laid it out in the same way. Starting at 67, Margaret will have her state pension available from 67. So we can see £150,000 savings there, and the growth of 3% means that her growth in the first year will be £4,500. She'll have her state pension of £11,500, which means she'll need to spend £8,500 from her pot. So let's see, once we run through the numbers until the age of 90, where she gets to. So we can see with this level of expenditure, Margaret will have £20,188 left at the point that she retires. So again, safe for Margaret under these assumptions. Let's have a look at a different pensioner. Meet Tim. He's 62, wants to retire at 62. He's got £500,000 in his pension pot. He's got no other private pensions though, other than his state pension. And he would like to spend £35,000 a year and expects to receive 3% growth in his investments above inflation. So let's see how that turns out for him. So we can see here that Tim retires at 62 but doesn't start drawing his state pension till 66. And what we can see, the £500,000 there has growth of £15,000 in the first year, which means he will have to spend the full £35,000, leaving £480,000 left in his pot at the end of the year. And that continues on until he gets to 66, at which point he'll only need to spend £23,500 a year because he's also getting his state pension of £11,500. Let's see where Tim gets to by his 90th birthday. So we can see out the £500,000 that Tim started with, he's actually left with just over £37,000 in his pension pot by the time he reaches his 90th birthday. And that's at a spend of £35,000 throughout his retirement. So let's jump across to a new pensioner. This is Amanda. She is 56 and she has savings of £255,000 plus a £25,800 a year private pension. She'd like to spend quite a lot. She'd like to spend £43,000 each year, but she's assuming quite good growth, 3% above inflation. So we can see here that she starts with a £255,000. At a growth of 3%, that means after the end of her first year, she will have had growth in her investments of £7,650. And of course, she also has the other pension of £25,800, which means she's going to need to spend £17,200 out of her investment pot for the first year here. That will leave her £245,450 at the end of the first year. Let's see where that leaves her at 90. So we can see even with this level of spend at £43,000 a year, she's still left with almost £100,000. Let's look at another example, and this example is John. So John is 55, wants to retire. He knows he has £150,000 in savings and £12,200 in a private pension. He wants to spend about £25,000 a year, and he's not so sure on growth, so he's going to go careful and say he's got 2% growth above inflation. So let's see how that turns out for John. So he starts at 55 with £150,000 in savings, quite a low growth at 2% above inflation, which will only give £3,000 in growth in investments during this year. So that means with the other pensions at £12,200, for John to top that up to £25,000, he's going to need to spend £12,800 out of his pension and savings each year. So we can see the reduction, how quickly that's going down for John. But let's see where he gets to by the time he's 90. So John's made it. At 90, he doesn't have much left. He only has £9,906 left. But that is assuming quite a careful growth level of only 2%. So let's move to our next pensioner. Let's now talk about Barbara. Now, Barbara is 65. She has savings of £255,000 in her pension pot. She's got another smallish pension, private pension of £5,000 a year, and she'd like to spend £28,000. She's been cautious in her investment predictions and only predicts that she will be receiving 2% above inflation. So let's see where this takes her to. Well, she has another pension of £5,000. So to get to £28,000, she only needs to actually spend £23,000 from her pension pot. And what we can see then is her pension kicks in, her state retirement pension kicks in at 66. So where will this get her to at 90? So fortunately, Barbara makes it. There we have it. She's have £31,509 left when she hits 90. So based on these assumptions, she can spend £28,000 a year, assuming 2% growth on her investments.
Okay, so I hope you found them examples useful. As I said at the beginning of the video, really you should think about going to see a professional and getting this done. But I think that's a great way. Just give yourself a bit of comfort to help you start to understand how your pensions work out, what investments are, thinking about the percentage returns you get on your pensions, that kind of thing. If you've got any questions on this, put them down in the comments. And also, I've got that spreadsheet that I was using to do a lot of that video available. So if you're a subscriber on the channel, drop me a line. My email is eric@timetoretire.co.uk. Give us the name of your YouTube username, and I'll look you up and I'll email you back with that spreadsheet for you to have a little play with yourself. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you on the next one.